The year was 2005. Pokemon Emerald was the best game on the GBA. Betrayers of Kamigawa brought the power and prestige of Umezawa's Jite. And in Yu-Gi-Oh!, news that the magical scientist and butterfly dagger Elma FDKs had just been banned. At the Scholastic Book Fair, there was not too many books on the topic of Yu-Gi-Oh! I have already talked about the picture books I have. Now onto the part of the inspiration for my interest in card game theory, Pojo's Unofficial Yu-Gi-Oh! 2006 Trainer's Guide. For a bit of context, Pojo is a website that deals with the competitive and collective end of card games. Their website today still looks like it came out of 2005. Love the GeoCities aesthetic. I'm just kidding. The new website looks very modern. It is actually a little crazy to think that it has been almost 2 decades of having a unique card of the day with a little blurb to explain the pick. But that is just part of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Nostalgia Month appeal. I am going to gloss over the fluff pieces like video game reviews, hot and not lists, and deck profiles because they are all outdated. The character profiles are a little interesting. The unofficial guide somehow scrounged up a picture of Gozabora Kaiba, while the official picture book couldn't be bothered. The stock photos are pretty lackluster, although the speech bubbles feel like a throwback of their own. Look at Judgment. The main draw of the book was 2 particular articles: Top 10 Dragons and the Top 50 Cards. Since no dragons exist in the top 50 cards, it makes you wonder why there was not any crossover. Let's tackle the top 10 dragons first. I swear the teaser image is of Blue Eyes Toon Dragon, but I cannot put my finger on the source. This shot from a video game is the closest I could find. Now, onto the list. 10. Paladin of White Dragon. The ritual monster is pretty inconsistent, but it does have a Drillroid effect to deal with pesky flip effects, which were more common in the day. Bringing out a Blue Eyes from the deck seems like a big upside, but running Kaiser Seahorse was probably more consistent. Speaking of Blue Eyes, 9. Blue Eyes White Dragon. This entry aged like a fine wine, as Blue Eyes seems to keep getting support and even won Worlds at one time. To this day, no normal monster has ever surpassed Blue Eyes White Dragon in attack points. 8. Kaiser Glider, however, has aged like milk. Pretty much any monarch is better than Kaiser Glider, with the least flattering comparison being to Ryza the Storm Monarch, which has the same attack points, but the effect is faster, and spinning to the deck is better than bouncing to hand. 7. Tyrant Dragon. Tyrant Dragon has a double attack effect, a little bit of protection from targeting traps, and actually got a reprint in the Speed Duel format, so I think it has weathered the test of time fairly well. 6. Troop Dragon. Troop Dragon is a self-recruiter. It is a little more limited than, say, Apprentice Magician, spoilers, but the deck thinning and tribute fodder gave it enough utility to play in Dragon decks, and maybe even early Monarch decks. 5. Spear Dragon. Ah, the days before piercing damage had problem-solving text. Spear Dragon is basically a hybrid between Giant Orc and Mad Sword Beast. Just run Air Knight Parshaf for the same stats, but with card draw. I am getting goat flashbacks already. 4. Twin-Headed Behemoth is a 2-for-1 special. This was at the time before the errata, so Twin-Headed Behemoth had to be limited, so that if it were shuffled into the deck, the effect could theoretically be used multiple times. Behold, the first once-per-duel effect. 3. Mass Dragon. Mass Dragon is a fantastic battle summoner, which can actually tutor both Troop Dragon and Twin-Headed Behemoth. Look at that! I miss the days when the game was more toolboxy, and you could use battle floaters to deck thin and add consistency to your strategy. 2. Horus the Black Flame Dragon level 8. Level monsters are a fossil. But to be fair, this was probably the best one at the time, offering unlimited spell negates every turn, although you did need to run at least the level 6 monster to even summon this card. And finally, number 1. Chaos Emperor Dragon, Envoy of the End. This card was so good at the time of printing, it might be the reason why we even have a restricted list in the first place. Probably owing to the Yada lock, but even on its own, it could end games or at least reset the board state. The errata deflated the card now, but I think it is hard to argue for a better dragon at the time. Now, let's take a look at the other top 50 cards. I do want to make a note that this list is based on the 2005 April Advanced Ban List. So you might be wondering where some of the broken cards are, like Confiscation or Mirage of Nightmare. They were banned. Some of the cards like Spirit Reaper, Blade Knight, and Zambria the Dark seem pretty quaint. Although flip effects were pretty common at the time. I can't remember the last time Noblemen of Crossout saw play. Maybe in Shadal format? I think Crawlers had a mechanic based on setting, but right now, the concept of setting monsters has gone the way of the dodo. The game is just too fast for the first turn T-set. Just for fun, I want to point out the rankings of the Power 9 of Yu-Gi-Oh! At the time, 3 cards were banned, so I'm going to count Makura the Destructor, Fiber Jar, and Painful Choice as me being right. The validation, so sweet. Mischief of the Time Goddess was not printed yet, and I added the card mostly for its nod to Time Walk. Pot of Greed is the best card in the game, but what does it do? Delinquent Duo is at 3, so I am off to a good start. Unfortunately, Pojo waited till the very end for the other pieces of power. Those being Morphing Jar at 42 and Metamorphosis at 48. My big gripe is with the lack of inclusion of Ultimate Offering. Maybe it is how the card has appreciated with the advent of normal summon searchers, but even when the game was based around normal summoning, I think Ultimate Offering is severely underrated. Overall, I think Pojo's Unofficial Yu-Gi-Oh! 2006 Trainer's Guide, wow, that's a mouthful, was my first foray into competitive play, and I genuinely think that the book helped me to become a better duelist. Shame I didn't learn about concepts like card advantage or tempo for the better part of a decade after the publication. Looking back, it is a great reflection on how the game used to be, stripped of most of its complexity and pared down to its core experience. It feels a little jarring to transition to the more modern incarnations of the game, but that is the nature of change. The Sisyphean struggle against always expanding entropy, the dynamic nature of the universe, and being forced to cope with change.